Hello everyone, this is Psychic Ty here with the Psychic Predictions for November 2023. So, as I predicted 3 months ago, we've been going into this energetic storm, as I'm calling it, which involves a transformation of the whole world. And we've seen many things. More recently, we've seen the Israel Hamas conflict, um, which I did predict last month, and I said that it would be somewhere around Europe. It's not technically in Europe, but it's kind of just on the outskirts of Europe, so I was close enough, but still, um, it was basically everything that I said. So, the storm is continuing into November. Israel is a small part of this all. Israel is not like the main event, just so you know. Um, Basically, there's just a big shift taking place, and you will basically not be the same afterwards. What I'm seeing for November is a little bit less chaotic than October, um, but it's a continuation of it. The way that I'm seeing it is like a wave. October, there was the initial wave, and then going into November kind of is the space in between waves for the next wave. However, what's going on energetically is actually very intense, I would say, more intense than last month, even though on the 3D level it's not really going to play out as being quite as shocking and as intense as last month. But what's happening is, on an energetic level, seeds are being planted. And sometimes when something happens, I've experienced this with taking psychic classes and training and things like that. And when you are about to experience a massive energetic shift, things will kind of show up in your life before and after the event. Sometimes during, but it's usually more so before and after. And so that's what we're experiencing now because of the energies that are shifting. The frequency of the earth is shifting. Humans are going to a higher frequency. Because of that, there's like a wave that kind of happens on both sides of that. And this is going to continue on. Of course, I've talked a bunch about this in my last 3-month psychic prediction videos, so go back and watch those if you want to understand more about what's going on. I can't get into all of that right now. But what I can say is that November will be intense, more so towards the end of the month. And what I'm seeing is a lot of social changes, a lot of pressure on politics, to the point where the politicians are kind of being overshadowed by the social pressure coming from the people. And this is also going to manifest as cultural values shifting, and we've already been seeing this. This is just another part of the big change that I've been talking about that's been happening since 2020. I'm saying it's going to end, you could say, around 2026 or so, but it's really going to keep going. I mean, nothing really has a definite end to it, but that's kind of like the bulk of the most change. But what's going to happen is a lot of cultural values are going to shift drastically, and that's happening November, moving forward, even more so than we have seen in the past, even more so than 2020. So people are going to become more self-expressive in the way that people may express themselves in more alternative ways, and kind of break away from the norm a little bit. I see this as a very positive thing. This is part of humanity being influenced by higher vibrations changing the frequency of the earth. So this is a very positive thing, even though it's creating massive chaos in the world currently, especially politically. And as I said last month, there was going to be a lot of deaths for October, November, December, and we did see a lot of deaths so far. So that's happening, and I predicted that it would happen until December. So I think that's probably still going to play out that way. So something's going on this month. You may feel a little weird energetically because of what's going on. And again, this is the frequencies increasing. So I just want to touch on that really quick, and I will get to that later, as well as some Bitcoin predictions and things like that. But let me first talk about what I was picking up on when I tuned into Joe Biden. So I saw him setting up a flag symbolically around the Middle East, and it was as if he was claiming territory there. I did not get the sense that this was aggressive, and I did not see this triggering any sort of direct conflict. I got more of the sense that it's a dragged out stalemate sort of situation that's just dragging on. Last month I was describing it as being I predicted that there would be a hostage. I said specifically that it felt like the world was being held hostage, and we've kind of seen that on some level. It's kind of like a chess game, like checkmate. I also said the word checkmate last month when I was predicting October, that is. And that's kind of what's going on. The world is kind of stuck in this situation, stalemate, you could say. So I'm seeing that continuing on for November. On my Patreon page, I made a little post, and I'm just going to share some of what was there. And what I said there was that Hamas seems to do better than expected, and I'm seeing them gaining some power in the south part of Israel. But this dying out in about 3 years or so, and there's still being conflict for a good while. This could last like maybe even like a decade of more conflict. It's already been going on for a long time. But ultimately, I see Israel winning in the long term. So there's also some international powers involved in all of this, but that I'm going to leave on my Patreon page because I just had an issue with my content being flagged as election interference. So I have to be careful what I say here. So anyways, I was seeing some visions of Israel and the northern countries. I would assume this would be Lebanon, and there being some bombs or missiles or something like that, some battles going on there. So it didn't seem like anything too major compared to what's already been going on. I mean, it is a big deal, but it's also nothing like earth rattling from where we already are. This may get worse towards the end of November going into December, where I was seeing there being a possibility of 3 countries involved in this war all at once. And this does not include Hamas or the Palestinian state. So I guess if you include that, that would be like 4 different groups battling it out. So I would guess, and this is not so much like clairvoyant insight. I mean, I kind of got the sense that I was from the north, and there's kind of 2 places to the north, so I just assumed that it's probably Syria and Lebanon, most likely. And then when I was writing that in my notes for this presentation, I heard the word Egypt, and I got the sense that they may not be involved directly in the battle, but there may be some sort of involvement with them possibly economically helping out other countries like possibly Syria and Lebanon. So back to Joe Biden, when I was tuning into him, I was seeing him symbolically walking towards Israel, but then it was as if he was kind of backing off, and it wasn't like he was turning his back on them, but it was more like he was just kind of slowly like stepping back and being like, okay, let's not get too far into that. And I got the sense that he may be moving ships there and then deciding to move some of them back, but not all of them. In regards to World War III, and I've said this before, that I don't really see there being a whole worldwide World War III, but maybe a smaller regional World War. Regional war, not a world war, but a regional war. Um, Although I would say that we are somewhat already in a Cold War, a Cold World War. Sorry, it's kind of hard to say. Um, but not so much a hot war that involves actual combat with all the countries of the world battling each other. It's more of an economic war, you could say. So, back to Ukraine, as I've been predicting, or I've been talking about for years, pretty much now, at this point. Um, Now, recently, I did predict the Ukraine war like a year before it actually happened too. But I've also been predicting that the Ukraine, the support for the Ukrainians was going to go away, and I said that a couple months ago, and I was saying that it was going to just kind of increasingly go away until people kind of don't really focus too much on it, and that's seemed like we're kind of at that point where people don't really care too much about it. Um, I don't see Ukraine beating Russia, and I've said that from the very beginning, the whole way through. And I see Ukraine basically being most of the way destroyed by 2029 or so. Um, so yeah, people are starting to realize that Ukraine will not win, which is what I said like 2 3 months ago, which sounded crazy to most people back then, but now it kind of makes sense, right? Okay, so Putin is interested in the Middle East more so than Ukraine right now. So like even Putin isn't focusing as much on Ukraine right now, it seems like. And I got the sense that he wants his network of countries to remain powerful, and because of that, he's kind of more focused on what's going on with Israel and all of that, because it could blow up into a bigger situation, and he's very much so aware of that. And it also interferes with his network of allies. So now that we've gone through that, now I can get to Bitcoin, because I know some of you really want to hear that. So Bitcoin, I'm seeing for November it's starting out good. But then it could go down sharp, potentially around the first week, before going back up again and then coming back down again, further down in the month, and then starting to show signs of improvement and more stabilization in December. So it seems like it could be a great month for Bitcoin and also a terrible month for Bitcoin at the same time. In other words, lots of volatility with big moves up and down. And it's kind of, some of this sounds obvious now, but I've also been saying this for like a couple months now, that this was going to be a volatile time for Bitcoin. So if you want to know more about that, you can join my Patreon. Actually, there's a free 1 week trial if you want to join that. I will tell more about that at the end of this video, though. So, the stock market. Someone asked about the stock market, and I promised I would mention it here. So here we go. What I see for the stock market overall, I see it going down with Bitcoin at first, but then it seems to recover and be less volatile than Bitcoin overall for the rest of November. Um, and then after November, I was getting the sense that it's going to be mostly flat until around March 2024 or so, approximately, where it looks like it could dump pretty hard again. Again, this is an approximation, and this is not investment advice, and nothing here is guaranteed 100%, just so you know. All right, bigger picture. I'm seeing in the world there will be a big outcry of citizens. I already kind of mentioned this, but overshadowing political figures, and this being a big, you could almost call it revolution. That may be an exaggeration, but it's the best word I can think of right now. But there's going to be more of a divide. And I think I've said this before, that even though people are dividing in some way, in the long term it's causing more of a unification. Because the division will shed light on many things that people would otherwise not have seen. And in the long run, that actually creates more unity and cooperation, even if in the short term it's division. So this month is a very powerful month energetically, major energetic shifts going on. The frequency of the planet is shifting drastically. So be prepared for energy to influence you. If you're sensitive to energy, you're probably going to notice a lot of energy this month. This is a strong month for manifestation in your personal lives. Humans are waking up because of this surge of higher frequency. And because people are kind of going up in a level, so to speak, their emotions are running very high. Because when people wake up to something, or kind of, when you wake up just in general, and you start noticing things that you didn't notice before, it can have an emotional toll. So be wary of that. I would say stay grounded. You may want to practice doing some meditations. You can even go on my channel and search for meditations, and there are some great grounding guided meditations that I would highly recommend. Okay, what is the month of November good for? What came to me was the three words, reading your transcript. And I thought that was weird at first, and I almost didn't include it. But then I kind of got the sense more of what it meant. And the transcript is like your transcript of your life, so to speak, which has to do with agreements that you have made, specifically in this case, on a subconscious level. And the reason why you want to read it, so to speak, you could say kind of like reading energy, I guess. Yeah, I just realized how that makes sense now, just now as I'm saying it. But in that sense, things are shifting and they may not be relevant to you in the way that they used to. So it's good to kind of go over your subconscious agreements of kind of what you just agreed to do, what you agree to put up with, what you agree to not put up with. Just I'm just going to leave it at that. I feel like you probably know what I mean by that. So let's see, what else is here? Staying low is also good for this month. And I asked why, and the answer I got was it's good to stick with what works for you because of the just massive changes going on. Um, and it's good to stay satisfied with the little things in life. That way, you can avoid the kind of chaos that's coming along because it's going to be very chaotic energetically, and this is going to play out on the 3D level um, a little bit during the moment of the energy frequency changing, but also afterwards because that's usually how it works. Like energy is kind of a precursor to the physical 3D manifestation of it. Okay. Also, a great month for imagining what you want to have in your future, and maybe even, like I was talking about earlier, changing your mind about what you may want to have in your life in the future. But I was also getting the sense that you may not want to take drastic actions on it until late in December. And I don't know why, that's just what came through to me. Well, actually, I do know why. I do know why. And the reason why is because the energy is so chaotic right now, and it's not going to really start to settle down until late December. That doesn't mean that things in the world will start settling down. It just means the energy fluctuations. And from there, I think things will continue to be a little chaotic, but most of the change will happen around that time and maybe a month or so after that, you know. Okay, so what is bad for November? November 2023 specifically. Being in self-servitude is what came to me. And the reason for this is that people are waking up, and because of that, people will notice if you're just serving yourself and being selfish. And because of this frequency going up, people are more in the energy of compassion, and that's not just for other people, that's also for themselves. And when someone is not resonating that, they notice it. So that's something to be aware of. Also, what's bad for November coming up here is holding on to old goals that may not be relevant anymore. And this is just if you're being kind of strict or stubborn about making yourself finish a project that may not necessarily be relevant to you anymore. So again, kind of similar to the reading your transcript thing that came up earlier. Also, this month is bad for negative self-talk, and I got the sense that negative self-talk this month in particular can just be a manifestation of a suppressing your interaction with others and suppressing your self-expression. Now, this is not always the case with negative self-talk, but for some reason that was coming through for November as a cause for negative self-talk in November. So this is a good month to really trust your intuition, because most people, pretty much everyone's intuition is ramping up a level because that's what's happening on the planet energetically. It doesn't matter who you are. You are more likely to have sudden insights, especially within this transition, where you may realize things that you didn't realize. You may notice things that you didn't notice in the past. So we're all starting to use more of the creative parts of our brain more, and so you may be more creative, and I would highly recommend to follow that and not suppress that. So when I asked what is the advice for November, what I got was, do not do bad things to others. It seems kind of obvious, so I decided to ask a little bit more. And I kind of already said this, but basically people are hyper aware as we learn to open our minds and turn on our intuitive abilities. And so it's good to be good towards people in a situation like that. You will be rewarded for your compassion for others this month, and more so moving forward into the future than in the past, by forming new connections with others and banding together with support groups. And support from others will be beneficial in November and moving forward in particular. As I've said before, 2024 can be a challenging year, not necessarily for everyone. It can be a great year for some people, but overall it's challenging because the systems, the old systems that we rely on for survival, are breaking down. 2024, everybody's been predicting, the economy is going to collapse since 2020, and I've been saying 2024 is a year when it's going to more so happen more than the other years, and so that's right around the corner. Now, of course, I've said a lot more about all of this information regarding this storm that I've been saying is coming for the past 2 months, and it started off with the Maui fires. There's been all sorts of floods and just crazy stuff going on with the Earth in general, and now we have this new war on top of the Ukraine war. So if you want to understand what I mean more about the energy shifting and all that stuff, go back and watch my previous prediction video where I did the psychic prediction for October and the months before that. If you watch this video all the way to the end, always appreciate a thumbs up, give this video a like, and subscribe if you have not for monthly psychic predictions each month. I also have a Patreon that you can join. Actually, you can join for free for 1 week, 1 week trial. You can obviously cancel it and not have to pay anything. Also, if you would like a reading, you can go to psychictide.com for private readings. All of the links to these sources will be below this video in the description. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.